Hello and welcome to the third episode of Let's Be Nerds, behind the scenes edition. I'm your host, Stephen J, and once again, I am joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Gordon Bryant and Kylee Gregg. How are you wonderful people doing today?
I'm great.
I'm
I'm ready to
doing
go.
okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You
I
hanging
thought I
in
heard
there?
some sarcasm in your voice when you said wonderful, but
You
that's
thought
just
I
my
was being
opinion.
sarcastic? Oh, I would never. I would never shade my co-hosts on camera, only in person.
I don't
That's
care
good to
either way
know.
I do it, both. I don't
So
like
this
you guys.
episode's going to be a little bit off the rails for us because it's not really scripted. It's not really formatted, but I think we're all in agreement that we want this whole show to be as organic as possible. And so we might add these into the rotation where we just kind of get on here and we talk about, what's on our minds. And today, kind of like the origin story of where this podcast really started from. I like this idea. I think that it's a little unprofessional, and sometimes unprofessional is good
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem as polished and fake.
like some people.
Some people that will not be named, or maybe they will be,
Who
because
knows?
we're a drama channel now. What can I tell you, folks?
We've always been a drama channel.
So I love and hate the way that this show started. Is that as much as that makes sense? Like
Well, why do you hate it? I have to know this.
Because
I
it started at work.
yeah, because it kind of
Oh,
came
that's,
from
yeah.
like it came unexpected, and I really wasn't in a position where I could take it on schedule wise. But I knew, and I said this at the end when we wrapped episode one, and maybe I'm wrong, and roast me in the comments if the show sucks so far, but I kind of feel like with time and with practice, we've kind of captured lightning in a bottle. And I think that we have something to offer. I think it's not, how many podcasts are started in a year? A billion. But I actually think that this one can take off. And so like I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these conversations we're having because for you that are listening that may not be familiar, we all work together in our some evening jobs, as you might call it. We all cross paths throughout our lives, and that's what started this. And I was sitting there, and you guys are talking, and it devolves into this Star Wars situation, and I'm thinking, don't get a podcast idea. Don't get a podcast. Like I'm preaching to myself, like you have too much on your plate. You have two full-time jobs. You have a show, you have a YouTube channel, you have a TikTok that has not been updated in over 2 months. We won't talk about that. And
Sounds
I'm
like
sitting there,
someone's promoting.
listen, I'm a lifestyle luxury brand and I will promote as I see
A
fit.
lifestyle luxury brand.
And I just felt so,
News to me.
I felt so impacted by the conversation that I'm like, other people would enjoy this. And I kind of kicked into producer mode and I was like, I need to make this happen. As much as I can't really do it, it has to work. So that was my impression. I want to hear you guys' first impression of that night that we sat out on the deck and had this conversation and this was proposed. Like, walk me through it for you, Kylee.
I had to leave early because Gordon wouldn't stop talking.
Early. It
That
was 12 o'clock at night.
early meaning I would have been there until 2 if we let you keep talking.
Yes, and you would have been better for it because I had some great information.
I don't know if I would have been, Gordon. I don't think so.
Well, you're wrong on something, so it's natural you're wrong on that too.
Ooh, the shade of it all. So, can I ask? And I'm keep interjecting. When I suggested this idea, did you guys actually think it was a thing? Like, that's what I'm curious about.
I personally was kind of like wondering. I was like, oh my God, are they actually going to go through with this? Like, is this actually going to be a thing? Because I know so many people that are like, oh, well, let's start a podcast, and then goes nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just them getting high in a room and doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually it.
That's kind
So,
of how I thought it was gonna go until the next day or two. Me and Steve were talking about names for the podcast, and we just fall upon our lesbian urge, and it just kind of took off from there.
it
Well,
became real for me when we made the server. We made the Discord server.
and
Yeah.
can we talk about that? Because and maybe we already did in episode one. Maybe we touched on it, but like, I think that it, from my perspective of coming in already overwhelmed with my workload, whenever I found out, when I realized that Gordon was like down to actually do the research and outlines and help me with production in that sense, finding out that you knew so much about like Discord and online media management.
Steve, I'm a 19-year-old girl.
I know, but you're not like other girls, you know?
Thank you so much. You're not cool like girl cool. You're cool.
You're cool. Which,
Ugh.
if you're listening, I want you to leave us a comment if you understand this statement. And Kylie, go ahead and say how this individual said it to you, because I want to see if the comments section gets it or if they think it's sexist or what they think.
So, an individual said to me, I like you because you're not like girl cool. You're cool. Like, actually cool.
And for the record, it was not myself. It was not Gordon.
I would
It was
never say
They
somebody.
something like
wouldn't call me
that.
It
cool.
was somebody. Well,
Steve might.
I probably
Gordon wouldn't.
would. Gordon wouldn't. Gordon would like have to
No.
like, debate you
Gordon would have
15
to like,
hours for that.
Gordon would have to get punted in the back of the head before he'd miss anything good about me.
About anyone, actually.
I disagree.
But we have to like, light it up in the comment section. Tell us what your thoughts on that are, because to me, I have my own theory. I think that's like a very weird statement to make. But when
I think it was a very weird statement, but I also was like, ooh, I'm not girl cool. I'm cool.
like it was like kind of like it bumped your ego a little bit. Like it gave you a little,
Yeah.
pep in your step.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There's
Nothing
definitely
wrong with
like a
that.
difference. I do think that there's a difference between like girl cool and then actually being interested in things. But I feel like, to kind of divulge a little bit, teenage girls cannot enjoy anything without getting made fun of.
Okay. Well, I mean, I want to hear like what like can you elaborate a little bit? Because I'd like to hear more on
I
what you
have
like. What?
seen like TikToks of people making fun of girls for like having cravings when they're on their periods, or getting sad and emotional because of their hormones, or saying that they don't actually like play video games, that they just kind of sit there and look pretty. And I think it's so, or like you diss on women's sports because you don't think they're as good as men. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like everything girls try to get involved in is just kind of like shut down. And I feel like
I
that's a lot of the reason why there's girl cool and then there's cool.
that makes sense because I've heard of like people dissing like specifically on like women basketball players. I've heard of like streamers where and honestly, we could probably do a whole video on like YouTubers and Twitch streamers and like this whole conversation. But I've seen so many female streamers that have sexualized themselves to get the
Oh,
views,
yeah.
and then so many girls that are actually like, for example, one of my favorite streamers is her name, she goes by Super Butter Buns. She does like game reviews and like intros on YouTube, and she Twitch streams. And she's not, she doesn't sexualize herself. She's, I believe, in a relationship. She's very happy in her own life, and I feel like she gets wrote off in a sense because she's not that stereotypical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Jeez, just cough up a
God,
lung, dude.
I thought. Hold on.
Steve dying in 3, 2, 1.
Apologize.
But
Sorry. Oh God, swallowed the wrong pipe. Anyway,
anyways,
but like they get overlooked because they're not that stereotypical. What was that latest trend, Gordon, where female streamers were in a hot tub or something?
Hot tub streamers, yeah.
oh, I remember that.
Twitch started
Ridiculous.
cracking down on them recently, though.
As they should.
Yeah.
So Kylie is actual cool, not
Yeah,
girl cool.
according to an individual.
We love to see it. Part of why you're on this podcast, because I mean, I think you have a lot to say and you have a lot of good input.
Well, thank you.
You're
I like
welcome.
to think I'm not just talking to the air.
So, Gordon,
Yes.
when this whole thing came about, I was like, hey, I need a Friday show. And like, in my opinion, I put the bait out there, and you were the one that you kept kind of bringing it up. And that's how it went down for me. I mentioned it, but because I didn't honestly think you would do it. And you kind of were the one that kept revisiting that topic and being like, oh, well, what is that like? What goes into that, or however you
Well,
worded it? So, like, what was your thoughts when that whole thing was going down?
I was just. You brought it up that night, the first night we all actually sat down. Me, Kylie, and maybe in the future another guest host.
Demetrius,
With
yeah.
our slushies and you with your alcoholic beverage, since we are all under the age of 21, except for you. Um, when we were leaving that day, you mentioned about no, sorry, it'd be the day after. You mentioned that you needed a Friday show filled after I brought it up again,
Hmm.
and from there I just kept bringing it up until I harassed you enough to start doing it.
I will be
Yeah,
honest.
Gordon doesn't shut up
Yeah,
when he
with
likes something.
that's one thing that we can all agree on. But like
Yeah.
honestly, I said it and I didn't think anything about it, but then I realized that you were interested. So I felt like I kept putting the bait out there to see if you were, because I've had so many people approach me about collabs, about different stuff. And yeah, they're interested when they're at the bar and they're 5 drinks in and they're not going to go anywhere. And luckily, that's not always the case. And I don't want to minimize anyone I have collaborated with. I have some very, very good people that are in the arsenal for a future release that have been wonderful. But it was kind of like a test because once I saw that you were interested, I kind of just kept putting it out there to see like, okay, is he going to keep pushing back to actually like make something happen, or is he, you know, just another one of these people that does lip service? So, in all honesty, Gordon, this podcast kind of did happen because of you, because you responded in a way that I was like, okay, he's serious.
And it is all my research.
Okay, let's
Me,
not
me,
get
me, me, me,
too,
me.
yeah.
My name's Gordon.
This is a very much a
Someone
Gordon
has to
bully.
stroke my ego, so it's gotta be me. No one else
Oh,
will.
oof. That's you're once again, I'm uncomfortable with your wording on certain things. Anyway, so we work all together. We kind of have this calamity of we end up all kind of closing this one particular restaurant together. And that's what really led to this whole conversation and all of this. I'm excited though, because as much as it can be a pain in the ass, we actually work with like a lot of like artistic and creative and inspiring people that I think we're going to have on future shows and like as guests. I have to say, like, it's as much as we can personally might have some complaints about it, it's kind of like a pretty cool situation we're in,
I
because
agree.
even the owners are aware of this podcast and they're ready for listening. They're down to like experience. Well, at least one of them is. He's let me know. Tell me when it's up. I'm here to listen. That's pretty cool.
He'll make fun of us in the long run for it.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty
Get our
sure
arms
that
cut
he
or
wants to be
something.
a guest.
Oh.
Yeah.
We talking about mom or dad?
We're not gonna use it. I don't like that term, honestly. It just like as from my perspective, I think it alludes to like a old stigma of stuff I don't like. So we're referring to Kay, and he's very interested. He likes the idea. He likes the concept, and I think he might be interested in talking someday.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, very
Probably should
cool.
have been able to guess that one though.
Because he kind of would fit the bill for maybe having like a fandom or a
Yeah.
interest in something, like because he kind of gives that vibe, like he's not, too ashamed to say he's a fan of something or whatever. And I think that might be a future episode we might have.
I agree. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. So, what else do we want to spill the tea on about the origins of this podcast? Because Kylee, before we launched, you had mentioned that prior to me coming on, and I'm going to give myself full credit because, I need my ego inflated, much like Gordon. You prior were not a fan of Gordon, but now here we are doing a podcast together. Was it me that changed your mind on him? Please say yes.
Please say no. I just want it to be I annoyed you to the point where you just wanted to get back at me.
Kylee?
Technical difficulties on Kylie's side.
Really? Is
Must
it
be. I
is it
can't hear
is
her.
it in the chat?
My computer's frozen currently, so I can't check.
Hey there, guys and gals. I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Speak Easily podcast. I know I had a lot of fun recording it. Speaking of, have you ever thought about making your own podcast? It's always been something I wanted to do, but I kept putting it off because I could never find the right platform to host it. That is, until I discovered Anchor. Anchor is an all-in-one recording, editing, and hosting app that makes the process simple. And the best part is it's totally free. And I mean genuinely free. And if you're someone like me who has a love-hate relationship with editing audio, let me tell you this, I was blown away by how user-friendly the in-app editing tool actually is. My favorite part, I must admit, is the distribution. Normally with new podcasts, you have to submit your show to various platforms individually, which can be time-consuming and very frustrating. But with Anchor, they do the legwork for you. They'll submit it to Spotify, Apple, Castbox, Google, and several others with just the click of a button. Plus, unlike other platforms, there is no minimum requirement for listeners, so you can monetize your podcast and start earning right away. So, download the free Anchor app available in the App Store or on the Google Play Store, or do what I did and head over to anchor.fm to get started today. Thank you, Anchor, for sponsoring this podcast. I guess this means the next round's on you. I'll drink to that.
Ah, perfect.
Oh.
My AirPod died, and then it just went into full panic mode.
Well, are you good to keep recording or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Anyways, refresh me on what we were talking about.
Why you hated me before the podcast?
Yeah, and let's restart.
He was really hoping that he caused you to start to like me, and I said I hope that I just made you so upset with me that you started getting along with me to get back at me.
Gordon, I don't like you sometimes. In the nicest
And
way
I don't like
possible.
you sometimes either,
That's
Kylie. It's
okay.
okay.
We're
It's
very much
mutual.
don't like each other kind of people.
But we
But
can get along with each other.
I am a waitress at this restaurant that we work at, and Gordon works in the kitchen. And it was after I had come back from school and started working at the restaurant again, and all of a sudden it was this new kid, and he was very rude to me and bossy to me, and I was like, I've been here for longer than you have, kid. And I found out he was older than me.
Oh
But
yeah.
a lot of the I Gordon's personality, unless you get to know him, makes him very hard to like at first. He's
It's a
very
self-defense
blunt, very
mechanism.
abrupt, very much in your face with things, and yeah,
It's
So,
very
I'm not
much a
giving you any
self-defense
credit, Steve.
mechanism, though.
oh, well, I am heartbroken, but that's okay.
Will you forgive me?
Maybe in
I just
time.
don't want to admit that I like Gordon because I don't.
You think you don't, but I don't think you would have signed on to do this if you didn't at
I
some
can
level.
stand.
So is this what the podcast is going to
See,
be? Like, is this,
hating
are we
hating is the
essentially,
most sincere form of flattery. So,
I'm not
no,
saying,
envy is the most sincere.
yeah.
I like my version of it better, Steve.
Sorry, Gordon. Here's my thing. I've known Gordon for forever. I'm friends with his dad. His dad and I go drinking together, and I I knew Gordon in a different capacity than everybody else. Like when I worked at a different establishment, Gordon would come in and we would talk about like cooking together. And like I remember when he got his first cooking job, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm so happy for you. And you're like, do you remember this, Gordon, or am I lying?
Vaguely. I mostly
Oh,
remember showing up at said establishment whenever you were bartending more than whenever you were off. But then again, I was just, I don't know, 5 or 6 years younger, almost, my
well, no,
first time.
I remember when you were like getting your first job. It's like
Yeah, so that
in
would
the
have been
cooking
like, what, 5 years ago
years.
now?
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. God, I'm making myself. I'm very much older. Yeah. Um, but I just remember like hyping you up and thinking you were like this like good kid and like needed like all this. We came into this situation of working together and like all being together, and I don't think that it's as bad as it was when I first started. I think there's been a lot of
Oh,
forward progress, and obviously it can't be all bad if we're sitting here after having worked together for however many hours and we're recording. So there must be some forward progression, is all I'm saying.
I'll say there's some. I'm not
Mhm.
budging on my feelings towards Gordon.
It's okay. I,
It's
I like
at
the
least,
resentment. It makes me happy.
it is above, I will say, my hatred is not as strong as that for Mace Windu.
There we go. So we have a tier.
Hmm.
That might be an episode. Is like your.
My
We
love
could
hatred tier list.
do like a tier list of your love hate relationships with actors and co-hosts and different situations.
So when
I'm
people are,
sure Steven and Gordon can vouch for this, but I either feel one way or another about a person.
You are very instinct driven. Like
I am
you,
very much like, I don't like you. No. Or I'm
but
very much like, hey, you're
while I
cool.
do think you have good judgment, I do think sometimes, and I'm not saying this is a critical thing because I'm guilty of it too. I think sometimes for me, I jump to a conclusion
Oh, for sure.
without giving them the benefit of the doubt or the opportunity to change my initial impression. Because to me, growing up Italian, whatever Irish, like first impressions are everything. And
Mhm.
that sometimes can be convoluted on our part because we don't know if somebody's like you don't know what somebody's going through. You don't know what their day's been like. So to just initially go off
I
of a
know that
first
Mace
impression,
Windu better count his days.
you're coming for him.
I'm gonna kill him.
Right.
I'm on my way. I'm gonna
Well,
take his purple lightsaber and I'm gonna kill him.
at least you don't have to worry about that, Gordon, because you neither have a purple lightsaber or she's not threatened your life yet. So like, at least we have that
Oh, I
going.
have.
And you don't think I have replicas of some of the lightsabers? Why?
No,
You have
I have
replicas of lightsabers.
I've threatened his life as well. I think you
Yeah,
realize
she has
it.
definitely threatened my life
You know,
before as well.
this is how I feel. As much as we do get along on normal episodes, I do sometimes feel like I'm the moderator of The View, where it's like they just all fight, and I'm just like trying to like, hey, have you ever seen that SNL sketch
Sketch.
where with it like it's like I think somebody's playing Whoopi Goldberg and she brings out the bottle of water and sprays them and is like, we are all best friends with nothing in common.
Yes.
I've kind of get that vibe from us, but we actually have stuff in common. We have nerd stuff. We have, we have things. We have work stuff. We have things in common. But I
Me
also,
and Gordon is our hatred for each other.
I think that I am doing the podcast version of you, and I'm making sure that everyone gets along.
Well,
Perfect.
you gotta do a better job, I think.
Yeah, obviously we're fighting.
I don't feel like it's that serious though.
You don't know that.
Let's
You
give
don't
it
know my
another
true
few
intentions.
minutes.
I think that it will pass in time, and I think that there will be a day when it's all copacetic. I don't know. I'm
I don't
optimistic.
think. See, you're optimistic, but when have you ever heard me say a positive thing in my life?
Not much.
I'm not a very positive person. I'm a very much glass half empty kind of person.
Uh
I'm very, and positivity is not my strong suit.
I believe it.
huh. you
Can't you
so
tell?
so quick with the chime in there, Gordon. My
I
thing
don't
is
think
like
Gordon's ever heard me be positive.
my thing is though is like, and I think I get a little bit of hate for it from some people because like specifically people we work with, but like life is literally just too short to like relish in the negative because like you can do that and like you'll live there, like you'll unpack and live there and you can't get out of that rut. And I get what you're saying, Kylie, that I think you do skew negative, but I don't think you're the type to unpack and live there.
No, I don't think. I think that I expect the worst.
Hope for the
And
best but plan for the worst.
exactly. And I'm very much, I don't like to get ahead of myself. I don't like to get excited about things. I'm just kind of like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Live in the time kind of person and not expect anything in the future.
Now, Gordon, where would you say you fall in that scheme of things we've just set up?
It really depends. Certain things are whatever happens, happens, and other things are let's plan it down to the detail.
Hmm.
I feel like that has to do with girls with Gordon.
Okay, you miss not plural, this singular.
Okay. I didn't know if we
I,
were.
I could never get plural.
Ooh,
I'm
a
lucky enough to
loyal
have the
man.
one.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. Is your girlfriend going to come on the podcast?
Whenever she saw us making fun of it, probably.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, me
Never
neither.
mind. Offer a vote. She can come on unpaid.
Sorry, she doesn't know I'm making money off of us.
Yeah.
She's
Which,
not allowed to watch this episode.
speaking of, this is an excellent time. If you are a fan of the show, we will be starting a Patreon. A lot of this work that we're doing, and putting content forward, and putting ourselves on the front page, we will be starting a Patreon, and the money will be reinvested into better equipment, more research tools, more time management to be able to deliver a better podcast. So, if you are able and if you are a fan of Let's Be Nerds, please consider looking into our Patreon because we're going to have different tiers where you're going to be able to see episode ideas ahead of time. You're going to be able to see outlines of scripts. It's going to be laid out relatively soon, by the time this episode goes up. And we would definitely appreciate the support because we want to make this community grow. We want to have all of the tools at hand to give people that feel that they don't have somebody that they can go and nerd out with about Harry Potter or Star Wars. We want them to find that safe haven and feel accepted. And despite the animosity amongst the cast, we
I
are
don't know what you're
a
talking about.
very accepting crew. And we would love to hear from you. We want feedback. We want suggestions. We want new topics. We want to feature you in a show. And that's going to be one of the tiers is potentially being able to bring up a subject and talk to us about it. So that will be up by the time this episode airs. And if you are able, don't feel obligated, but please consider uh, becoming a Patreon. There are shout outs and different things available where you will definitely be appreciated for that contribution. So, with that being said, let's navigate into the future of the show. Like, where are we taking? Like, I'm so excited for where we're taking this because if you look at the Discord right now, we have so many topic suggestions, so many different avenues to pursue that it's like the sky's the limit. Like, how do you guys feel?
I think that with this and how we've been setting ourselves up so far, we're definitely going to be able to cover whatever we want, whenever we want, and not even have a set schedule for how the topics come up and just wing it from time to time like we're doing right now.
I'm
I agree.
excited to I'm excited to expand our universe. Like, obviously Star Wars is going to be a mainstay. We've established that. I'm excited for the implement of the true crime. I'm excited for the implements of topics I don't know anything about. Like Gordon, you're working on an episode about Doctor Who. I cannot
I
wait for that.
am.
Like, I want to broaden my horizons a little bit with this too. I don't want to just sit here and talk about stuff that I've been talking about to whoever will listen for the last 10 years. I want to like learn as we like it's like we're growing as we're doing this. We're broadening horizons.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out why I can't sign on to. Oh, I'm a dumbass. Never mind, ignore me.
I mean, we already knew that, but yeah.
And we normally do.
All right, so what does everyone work tomorrow?
I work 4 to close.
I work 12 to close.
I open.
Does anybody have any opposition to potentially doing more episodes tomorrow night?
I will let you know before I come into work because I know that I may have plans after work.
Okay, that's fair.
Because
That's fair. Anyway, good episodes. I think I feel good about everything.
I do.
Okay.
I do as well.
All right, cool. Then I will talk to you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, I'll see you nerds tomorrow. This episode of Let's Be Nerds is hosted and produced by Gordon A. Bryant and Stephen J. McLean. Today's co-host was Kylee Gregg, our social media manager. Let's Be Nerds is a production of Speak Easily Productions. Let's Be Nerds is hosted and sponsored by Anchor.fm. To keep up with the latest about our show, follow us on Twitter at Let's the letter B Nerds or join our Discord server, which will be linked in the description box below, along with our Patreon. Also, a special thanks to Robert V. Jacobs for composing our theme song. You can follow his Instagram at Bobby_Specter. Also check out Stephen J's YouTube called The Speak Easily with Stephen J. You can also find him on Twitter and Facebook under the same handle or on his Insta under Speak Easily Stephen J.